Hi everybody, thanks for coming to this video today. Today we are going to do a watercolour painting of this cute little, I think it's a 𝐶𝐸. It's a dog that is a friend of mine, and she sent me this photo over. I'm going to include it also in a book that I'm currently writing, which is How to Draw Dogs, and this is the drawing task 2 from the book, and you can learn how to use the grid method to transfer the image into a drawing like the one I have got here. Now, I also supply these free on my website. These are traceables that can also be used as colouring in sheets. And so what you can do, if you're using it as a traceable, you get your watercolour paper first, pop on your graphite sheet paper, put my traceable on top and work the lines. Now you don't have to draw over all of the lines because we're watercolouring. It's going to be a very loose painting. It's not going to be super detailed, so just the main lines that you can. So what we need to do first of all is run through what you're going to need for the session. So first of all, you will need your watercolour paper and the traceable that I've just shown you. You will need some watercolours of some kind. It really doesn't matter what you use. Any watercolours is fine. I've got some watercolour pencils as well in case I want to put some detail in. You'll need a range of watercolour brushes. So these come in, I've got some flat brushes, I've got some filberts where they have a slightly rounded end, got some rounds, which is what most of you might be used to if you're a beginner. So I have a range of sizes in those 3 different styles of brushes. Oh, I've also got the, can't remember what these are called, brain fog's kicking in, but they are slanted brushes. Edged brushes, I can't remember the word. Anyway, let's get started. Oh, don't forget you'll need your water and you'll need a palette of some kind. So first of all, I've done what I said for you to do, so use my traceable and to copy that onto your piece of paper. Now what will happen is that the pencil marks will be very deep in the paper. So we want to try and lessen those pencil marks a bit. Now you can use a kneadable eraser. However, I've lost mine. I don't know where it's gone. And you just need to go round and push back the pencil marks a bit. Because we are doing watercolour, we don't really want the pencil marks to be sticking out too much. So we want to push them into the background as much as we can. Because really, when we're painting, we want the paint to talk. We don't want the pencil to be talking all the time. So when you watch this, guys, on YouTube, when I post this on YouTube, please know that whilst I'm recording, I'm also live on TikTok. So if I end up talking to anybody, hello TikTokers, if I do end up talking to anybody, it's because I'm talking to TikTok. I'm not going crazy and I'm not talking to myself. But I will be loading this video up hopefully tonight onto YouTube. And I will also make sure the shorts are on my TikTok page and my Instagram and my Facebook for everyone else to see. Okay. So you can see now that I've really pushed back the lines of the drawing. I can see it really clearly. You might be finding it difficult. I'm just going to pause the recording a moment because the camera keeps going in and out, so I need to stop that. Okay, so let's get started. I just want to put a really pale layer down first of all. I want you to know as well, I don't practice these. It's not how I work. I don't like to do paintings over and over again. I just want to get stuck in and see what happens. So you're seeing everything from the beginning to the end, my thought process and everything. Now, when I look at the main picture on my screen above, I just need to go for like a mid-brown and just get brown everywhere on him. Apart from, we need to be a bit careful of the eyes. But we can come in with like a white pen at the end and put in some of the white marks of his eyes. So let's get started. I think I'm going to go straight in for the brown. I'm not even going to mix that brown. I'm just going to add water because it's actually a really nice mid-brown. It's not too dark, it's not too pale. And when we put the water in, we'll make it a bit paler for us anyway. So let's just pop the brown on all over. Now, if you are a beginner, I'm just using a round brush. I'm just getting started, and I'm literally just layering down that first colour just so I can get started. I'm using quite a big brush, and I'm just layering everything down. I do kind of need to go over the eyes a bit as well, because they're not completely, even where it looks white on the picture, it won't be completely white. Now, because this is the first layer and it's so pale, once I put all the other layers on and start to paint in, this pale layer will look almost white. But then we're giving it some definition. Say hello if you come on TikTok. I am recording for YouTube, but it would be lovely to have you guys asking me any questions if you come on. Right. So the table is also like a funny brown colour as well. So I'm just going to put in the direction of the table just some angled strokes. Coming down from his face. And that's all I want to do for the first layer. And you're probably thinking, looks like there's nothing there, but there is. And it's really important that we build up our layers from the lightest to the darkest. So if we make a mistake, it's not really going to matter. Right, I'm just going to dry now with my heat tool. If you don't have a heat tool, don't worry, just a hairdryer or anything like that will do fine. Right, so I'm coming back into the same brown because we did such a watery version. We can now come in with the same brown and just pop in some darker values from light to dark, and just layer him up a bit more. Just want to try and get that right, the consistency, a bit more paint. There we go. Right, so I'm going to focus on the areas that are getting darker and leaving the areas that are light. So for me, I can see here it is lighter, here is lighter. Basically, it's where the light is coming down. So we're going to start there. On his head, we'll put a bit down there, but not too much. Okay. And we'll wash it right down, because that's where it is going to be paler. We want it to be a bit darker up there, but not too much. So we're going to bring it down. I'm kind of going in the direction of his fur. And please remember, with all paintings, there is a messy stage. So if you're looking at it and you're thinking, ooh, it's a big mess, it probably is right now, and that's okay. And if you're painting along, please know that it will be a mess. It will have its messy stage. But I'm really kind of just working in the direction of his face, because we can come in with detail afterwards to help. Now, this area here above his eye is a lot darker. So I'm going to come in and darken that up quite a bit. Again here. And this bit here is darker. His ear is definitely very much darker. Now I am going to put a layer of this down, but we are probably going to cover that up because it's going to be mostly a very dark brown, which is going to be a completely different brown colour. Now with his hair and going into the background, so this is his ear here, so I can see it's really dark here. So I'm going to mark that bit in darker. All the way down to there, it's much darker. Then It's lighter here, so we don't want to put too much paint down. We just need to dribble it down and then push it across. Okay. So that's kind of the first couple of layers done, which really is just about blocking in colour. What I've done here is I've kind of missed where his eye is. It's definitely much darker down there, because on here it kind of looks like that's his ear, but it's not. It's just under his eye. So we're going to pop that in. And it's quite dark above his eye here. And a little bit under there. This bit's really dark. But as I say, we'll come in with the really dark colours once I've put a bit more of that next dark layer on. Right. I am now going to come in with a deeper brown. Darker brown. Because there are some areas that really are quite dark. Oh, I'm just going to dry it first. Nearly forgot. Because if I don't dry it, what will happen is all of the colour will just flood into the other colour and just spread out, and it won't be where I want it to be. It'll go everywhere. Right, let's do this. Realise at the moment he's just looking like a brown blob. That is okay. We are in the blob stage. I call it the ugly stage or the blob stage. So what we need to do is put some more sort of darker brown in here, and we're emphasizing where the ear is darker, and I'm doing it in little bits because his ear is very textured, so I'm using the brush to put some of that defining texture in. There's also a darker bit over here, much darker, but we can make that darker as we go along. I'm just mixing some black up, and then I'm going to put some of that brown in because it is so dark over there. I just want to create another darker colour for the back. There we go. Remember, we're just putting base layers down. The detail will come later with smaller brushes. So if you're wondering what's going on, that is what's going on. We're just putting some detail. Sorry, not detail. We're just putting down the main colours and just building it up. And I'm trying to go in the direction of the fur as well. There's quite a bit around his nose that's much darker. And then round here as well. So I'm going to use the brush to define where his nose is, that shape. And start to pull together a little bit of description. That's all we're doing, is we're using the paint to describe what we're seeing. So I'm going to start adding more in to define him a little bit. I'm not going to do anything on the nose yet or the eyes until I move on to a smaller detail brush, because at the moment I'm just trying to get a general feel for where the shades of colours are, where the darker ones are. So this is a very dark round here, but I've got to remember that that's his face there, so I'm going to leave that. I mean, it's still nowhere near dark enough, but I like to go slowly and build up the layers. There's nothing worse than putting down that darker layer and thinking, oh, I shouldn't have done that. So here I'm coming in the top of the head where it's quite dark, Just put in a range. I've got the 3 browns out now, and I'm just kind of popping them down in different places because he is reflecting the light onto his fur, and it is showing up as darker and lighter and a mixture of shades in different areas. But the most important thing when you're doing things like this is to relax and enjoy it. Don't feel tense. Don't get yourself into a state where you think, oh, it's not perfect, I'm not enjoying it. Please just enjoy. This is the most important thing, is that you're enjoying what you're doing. I think I'm going to give him a dry now. So just using my heat tool there to give it a dry, and you can just use a hairdryer, whatever you've got. So again, I'm looking at the reference photo, and it really is, this is where now I'm putting in some of the darker shades. And again, it's watercolor, so let it free flow a little bit. It's what it's meant to do. We can come in with the detail afterwards. I'm just coming in with what I call my 3 main layers, the darker layers, to get everything as dark as I want it and to get everything kind of in the right place. And I do it really loosely. That's the joy of watercolor, is that you can be so loose and fun with it. Okay. So as you can see, I'm just building up the layers. That's all I'm doing. I'm still not ready to go in yet with any kind of detail. Not yet. So again, it's dark around the eyes here. Don't forget as well, when you're dealing with watercolor, it looks so much darker than once it's dried, and you'll start to, if you're new to watercolor, you'll start to realize that as well. So I don't want to have too much in the middle because that's where it's lightest. And as I come in and put detail in later with the smaller brushes, we can change anything. We can add more if we think that's too light. We can do that afterwards. It's no problem. So his nose, I think I'm going to, it's kind of a pinky nose, isn't it? On the photo, it's got a little bit of pink to it. So I'm mixing kind of a mauvey pinky colour in with the brown to make it a pinky brown. So if ever you see a colour and it looks like an orangey green, mix orange and green together. I mean, that's how I describe colours. I just describe what it looks like. So if something looks a pinky brown, mix those colours together. I know it's quite a simplified way of putting it, but it's a really easy way to remember how to mix colours. Literally mix what you see. Okay, so that's his nose done very, very loosely. Remember that I'm just doing the background here. So, yeah, that's better. And obviously he will have really dark bits inside here, which will help to define where, in a minute when I have a smaller brush, exactly where the darker bits are. Some of that pink will be useful, maybe just around the eyes as well. Remember, I'm just dotting in the base layer of colour, so it'll be quite loose. Good. Right, so now I just need to pull that down a bit because I can't quite see under here. Right, so here and up by the mouth here, there is a bit of pink, underlying pink. Definitely. Round the eyes. There's a little bit on the top as well, which I think I'll just do like a very, very watery version. So that pinky mix, but with a lot of water. I'm just going to add it to the top of his head. You know, paint what you see. At the end of the day, I think that's the joy of being an artist. We all kind of see things differently. At the moment, he's just looking like an absolute blobby mess. I understand that, and that's fine. I have accepted that, and he's supposed to. So enjoy the blobby mess stage, is what I say. So we need to come in, I think, in the middle of his nose. It's quite grey, in fact. A little bit of grey would be good there. That's what I'm seeing anyway. It's like a grey pink colour. So I'm just going to dab a bit of pink in there. And just pop that there. Bit of a grey pink colour. That's what I'm seeing anyway. And then maybe a bit more grey down here. The bottom part of his mouth where it is quite white, which we can come on where he's got some, believe it or not, even though he's a brown dog, there are quite white, like his whiskers there are quite white, and there's some whiskers here that are quite white, so that's all good. Okay. Right, let's get some browns from over here. And I'm going to feed some of those in as well. It's a completely kind of different colour to what I already have, but I do think it gives that little bit of dimension to him because he is made up of lots of different colours of brown. Where's it gone? I need it there. So I think I can see it up here, and I can see it down here. I can see a bit up here. And a little bit up here. Okay. So I'm just dabbing in some of that new brown that I've just used, just to add for the base layers a little bit more kind of dimension to the colour, so that it's not all of that sort of reddy brown, pinky brown. This is more of a yellowy brown. Okay. I think I'm going to move to a small brush very soon so that I can start to put the detail on top of the background, because there's only so far you can go with that, and if I start layering it up too dark, it'll just like a big blob. So moving on to a smaller brush. I have two different sizes here. I've got a round brush 2 and a round brush 5. So the other one was quite a big brush, but I want to come in, actually I want to dry first my base layer, so watch your ears if you're on TikTok. YouTube, it should cancel out. It's important to make sure that you dry between layers, because if you want to put, if it's already wet and you want to put a new colour down and you want to be quite exact about where you put that colour, it will just go everywhere. So I want to come in now with a very dark brown, almost black. So I'm going to mix that without very much water. So the least water you use, the more precise you can be with your markings. So I want to come in and do that shape here that's on his nose. So it's right here. And that was a bit too wet still there, see? It's pooling. But it felt dry. So you've got to be careful. If that happens, just get some tissue and mop it up, because you don't want to ruin your entire painting. So let's give it another dry. Make sure it's completely dry. That's better. So I'm coming in to draw his nose and draw that line that kind of flicks up, and then do the other one, which is slightly different on this side, like that. That's better. So that gives us the defining mark of where the nose is going to be. And then just checking it's dry enough, there'll be a line here, just using the very, very point of my brush. And then I can see another one kind of here. There are other marks on his nose, but I don't want to go into too much detail at the moment because we'll just let that dry first and we can work around that. Going to work on his eyes. So they are more of like a yellow ochre colour. So I'm going to come in with a yellow ochre to start with. I'm going to do the lighter colour first. That's fine. And same here. That might be a bit too dark there. I need to water that down a little bit. That's better. Just lift some of it if you feel as though it's got a bit dark. That's fine. So I realise he looks all nose now because we've obviously done the detail on his nose, but it won't look like that. Eventually, just give him a dry. Okay, so now I'm going to brown up the edge of his eyes a little bit. So I'm going to try and get as much paint without too much water. Just going to check they're dry enough. And come in and go around the edge of his eye, because it doesn't matter if it blurges in a bit, because his eye actually is a bit like that. There's a mixture of the brown and the yellow. And then what I'm going to do is just dab it in gently. And then it starts to look a bit more natural. Same here. Okay. We need it to look as natural as possible. It needs to mix into that yellow as best as possible. There we go. Okay. So now we need to go into the middle. That's more of a darker brown. And then what we'll do at the end is we will add, I'm going to just try and jagged the edges up of that a bit, because that's it. We don't want it to be completely perfect, because his eyes aren't perfect. They're like lots of different colours. Need to come around there a bit more. That's it. And then at the very end I will come in and do proper line work where it needs to be, where the detail needs to be very specific. Right, so I wanted some of this mauvey colour, but I actually wanted to just put some white in with it, because it's kind of like, it comes out like a fleshy colour, which is great, but pink on the pink side, because around his eyes on the photo it does look quite pinky. So I really want to work that in. It needs to be much thicker with pigment. So just keep adding pigment. What I'm doing, YouTubers, is I am adding the pigment to thicken it up, so that when I do come in, it will be the exact colour I want. But what I need to do now is lighten it. So I'm going to come in with just the white pigment, no more water. Just need to come in and make that little pinky shade. But then I'm thinking now it's too pink, so we need to add a bit of brown in. And then we get our brownie pink. Just add some more in. And keep going until you're happy with it. So this kind of pinky brown colour, like a fleshy colour, is going to go under his eyes without too much water, because we're coming in and trying to do some of the detail now. And we're going to come in around his eye and just using the edge of the brush, and then we can splurge it down a little bit with the water. So we've outlined his eye, but then we're coming down a bit as well with the water to bring it down underneath. Okay, just bringing that flesh colour underneath. We don't want it too prominent, but it is definitely there, so we need to get it in. And I'm just dropping it in very lightly with the point of my brush. Okay, remember we're still doing base layers. I'm not doing the full detail yet. We're just trying to really get those colours exactly right and where we want them. So he's got a bit here as well of that colour, but because I'm putting it into dry, wet on dry, it's kind of clinging to the paper, and I just want it to kind of go build into the background a little bit. Push back. So use your tissue if you need to, just to blend that and push it back. Right, so I'm going to come around. Oops, that was way too much. There we go. There's a little bit there that I can see. So these fleshy colours are kind of around the eyes and mainly around the nose. So I'm just focusing on those areas. I will be putting more brown on top of that fleshy colour, but we need to have that bottom layer in to be able to see that there is that fleshy colour there. I put some down earlier, but I didn't feel it was dark enough. So if we do that first, then we can go over with the fur lines afterwards. I'm just going to put some grey in the middle again, just to give that blended in feel of a nose. We don't really want too many white marks there. Okay, so his nose is starting to take a bit of shape. Right, I'm just going to dry all that. That was my heat tool. If you don't have a heat tool, a hairdryer will do, but you must dry between layers, as I've said before, because we don't want the colours mixing into each other. Well, sometimes we do, but not always. I'm going to go in now, I think, with a much smaller brush. We'll start adding in some more of the detail. I'm focusing mainly on the nose and the eyes at the moment because they are what will make the whole thing come together. Now I'm just picking up some paint straight out of the pan onto the end of my brush so that I can come in and really define the eye now, because on the picture it's got a lot of dark right around the edges and coming in to the eye and then up there. Okay, so you can see I'm just starting to define where the really dark shadows are on the eye. We've a long way to go yet. We're still very much only on the base layers. So grab a cup of tea or a drink of water. Right, so this is kind of coming down like that. I am literally just drawing in the main lines because the shadows are there and they're most definitely like definite lines. And the eyes are so important because they are what will finally make him look like a dog and not something else. Okay, so hopefully you can see there how it's coming together. Okay. And I'm just adding in a few lines here and there where I see them where we can add them in again later as well. I don't really want to go into too much detail with the fur and putting all the lines in. I just want to have a few in there. I want to keep it as loose as possible. Okay. So coming in now with a really dark brown again. So what I do is I mix the darkest brown I have with the black. And that helps to give me, excuse me, my phone pinging. That helps to give me the nice dark colour that I'm going to need now for coming in and doing his ear. Okay, and now I am using the small brush because I'm now going to come in and try and exaggerate where the fur is and the movement of the fur. So it's really dark in here where the face and the ear join. It's like there's a bit of shadow in there. So I'm just popping that in, and the same here. And then we can kind of spread it out onto his ear like that. Start curling it in, as long as we're coming from that direction and creating that feel of movement. And come in just with paint. Don't think it's dark enough with just brown. Let's put some black on. Now I am coming in with a really dark brown now because I love it when the contrast shows up. It really starts to bring it to life. Better check my phone, it's going ping crazy. Do it in a minute. Right. So I'm just trying to get that shadow in as we can see it there. Okay. Coming down. Just putting any shadows in as I see them really. And some round his eye up there, but I didn't want it quite that dark. But we need to kind of come round his eye and bring that round and make it look like that's the direction it's going in. This bit as well, near his other eye. Again, that's too watery, so I'm going to come in straight from the pan. And I just want to be popping in now these bits around here much darker. And we still want to be leaving the underneath there, and we need to be making sure it's moving in the right direction. So this bit is his face coming down, joining the rest of him down here. It is that nice darker brown colour, so we need to make sure that's in. And I'm kind of doing it in the flow of that direction as well to make sure. Yeah, it's coming together. Coming together nicely. Okay. Oh, just splurged my paint everywhere. Be careful of that. So I'm doing the same up here. The same brown. This one I need to just spread about a bit. It's a bit too much of like definite lines. Remember, we're just doing a loose painting. We don't want those definite lines in. Okay, so I need to come back in with that darker brown colour to do his ear. No, it's not dark enough. Try again. It's almost black, so we really need to be putting that direction in there with a very dark colour, and I might even actually come in with some brown at the end. We'll see. Okay, and then this comes this direction. and then that kind of flips around like that. So again, you're just trying to get the motion in of how everything is sitting on the page. So just flicking it round like that helps to guide the eye and show us that that is the ear. Just curling round. I am going to come in with some black actually, because I'm feeling it's just so dark down there, and so it needs to be. So like that, and then showing this coming round here and round here, just in a nice old messy fur fashion, as it should. And then I'm going to do some more darker ones up here, just slightly darker, because I don't want to ruin it. And then, I mean, I did come in with the darker bits here, but I'm just going to come in again with just the black, because I think it really makes a difference when we get to thinking about going around the whole part of him and thinking about the direction. So the eye is there, just checking I'm getting the colours right ish. Okay. Oh, he's a cutie. Right, so he is very much a reddy brown in colour, isn't he? He's lovely. Right, so his ear, we need to get it so that it's not that colour. So we've got almost like an orange colour to mix in with the brown to make it like a gingery colour. Let's try that. So I've got this orange, and I'm going to mix it in with the brown that we've been using. We're getting there actually. If you look on the photo, you can see that orangey brown like in the top strands of his, yeah, there we go, towards the end of his ear here. So we'll put them in, and I'm just doing rough curly kind of strokes. I'm not too worried about every individual fur line, because that would take us forever. Now what I'm going to do is go into the brown and kind of blend the brown and that red together for his ear to start making a bit of sense, because it's so separate at the moment. We've got dark, we've got the reddy brown, and then there's nothing in the middle. So we need to show that in there. Okay. We also need to get some of that nice reddy brown up around here where his eyes are, because it kind of comes round here as well. It's what I'm seeing anyway. I mean, observe, observe, observe. You paint what you can see. And then here, there's some coming down here. So I'm just going to push that into a lighter colour, just gently. And that's where it kind of joins that pinky colour here. So it's very pinky down here, and there's a bit of red around here. I just need to make sure I'm getting it in the right place. So a bit here and a bit here. And actually, I would say I'm going to try and quite a watery bit, but just try and draw his face coming around here like that a bit, and directioning now, because we put down our base colour, but we didn't really do the directional thing. We did it a bit. And I'm going to come here and start, oh, that wasn't dark enough, coming around here and adding some of that directional fur in as well. We're just starting to darken him up now. I love to put all the lighter layers down first, and then we come round with the darker colours, start adding it in. And there's a bit here which just kind of draws in his mouth, and then I've got a bit of brown there. So now I'm filling in using the smaller brush, the directional kind of detail. It's still kind of loose, it's watercolour, so experiment with the looseness of it, but it helps to just have that directional motion of where the fur is coming from, rather than just putting that flat colour down. So I can see kind of just coming out from his nose all the way around. He's got like this darker brown colour. So I'm going to put that in, coming from the nose area. And then we just start to blend it in a little bit to the rest of him. And he'll start to come alive, hopefully. So I need to kind of go in that direction. I'm just warming him up at the minute, warming the colour of him up, and I'm just putting in some directional strokes. I'm working my way up this way now, trying to make sure I've got in everything that I want to get in the background. Just going to dry him a minute. Right, I'm going to come in with our very dark brown colour, because we've missed the point of getting in some of those dark colours in the background where his body is and is underneath the ear. So we need that kind of change in value for the shadow. But then we can bring it back up into the lighter brown again. Okay, but that's just his background done. So what I want to do is try and just blend that into the rest of the ear a bit more. There we go. Okay. So get some more of that mid-brown. Add some water to that mid-brown. And we need to kind of highlight the face as it's coming down here. Okay. And then again, sort of it comes round here, but we want to get those movement strokes in so it's coming from that part of his face. Don't forget, it always dries lighter, so don't panic when you put it down and think, oh, it's fine, but do try and blend it in to where it needs to be. Coming down here as well. Just going to work on the nose area a bit more so that we can see that where it's going up to in the background. Okay. Right, I'm just going to put some more of this brown here. Let's start building up his nose a bit more. And I'm literally just looking now at the picture, trying to get that nose shape in right. It does actually look like he's got a nose. And don't be afraid to have those bold lines like that, because it does really bring out that nose shape. Okay. Don't want to work on his nose too much, because we can sometimes get too nitty-gritty and into the detail. So just darken it up where I feel it needs to be darkened. Obviously the very top of his nose is quite clear because the light's shining on that. And we will come in probably with like a white pen or white acrylic, and we can add in the highlights at the end. Right, so he's got like this really reddy coloured bit here and this red coloured bit here, which we really need to emphasize as much as possible. Again, just blending it in with that darker brown. It is very dark around here, and it's very dark here. Coming all the way kind of down to here, isn't it? And then kind of flicking round his eyes. As I say, as you're painting, always paint in that direction that your object or your person or your fur is moving in, and that way you will get a real sense of the 3D-ness. Don't just put it down flat, you've got to work it around. Okay. Around here is more kind of down like this. Oops, not too much. Oh, I love it when it starts coming together. It looks really cute. Okay, that just emphasizes the shape of his mouth. And it is actually quite a stark line, and I try not to have such stark lines like that, but yeah, coming together slowly but surely. Just giving some impression of curliness there. There's not too much of that red colour this side. It's very, very dark that side, but there's a little bit at the bottom and there is a little bit at the top. So let's put some more of that in there. And there's quite a lot on the top actually. He looks very red there as the light's hitting the top of his head. He kind of looks quite red. Okay, and then we need to get back into the darker colour, and I'm just going to kind of put some where I can see that it's darker. It's like here, it's this bit. Kind of creates his forehead shape. Gives him a forehead. Up till now he hasn't had a forehead really, right? So I'm going in the direction of the fur. Excuse me, getting a dry throat. I'm going in the direction of the fur, but I'm definitely sticking to that darker colour, and I need to go darker still, I think. Let's add in some more of that darker colour. So I'm just adding in some more pigment, a bit more water, because I have gone very dark there, which is fine because we are layering and we need to make sure we're getting those colours in, but not too much, because this is the lighter area that we're doing now. But he's starting to come to life a little bit, which is good. I was a bit worried for a minute there. Thought we were going to have a very flat looking painting. And sometimes it does that when I'm doing anything for the first time. You can have disasters, you can have them not working, and that's just the way it is. Sometimes we can't see the wood for the trees and we make mistakes. I'm using the very end of the brush now just to come in and put some detail around the nose. And make sure that that's really black down there. Might even come in direct with some black. Really helps to have those very big differences in values as you're going along. I'm going to come into the eye, and again that is going to have some quite stark differences now, because we really do want that to stand out. Like that, and then around there. So just doing the eyes and going in with those final marks, it really helps to bring them alive. Okay. So I'm coming in now just with my points, and where I can see there is like a sharp line of a very dark colour or black, I'm just going to put that in. So I'm just adding in now. I won't be drawing in all of his fur, like every little detail, but I just want to add in the bits that are going to make a difference to the picture, yeah? So where it's really dark. So that goes down to there. And then it comes round. Kind of makes his face come round. There we are. Better. Much better. Same for here. I want to kind of build in little bits of detail, not too detailed, but just enough to show the movement, where it's going. Just blend them in a bit, because we don't want to be doing like every little bit of fur. I'm just going to dot on some of that brown around the eye there, because we don't want it all too pink. There is a bit that is quite strong pink here in his eye, right in the corner. So we need to put that in. And the same here. It's very pink in there. Just put a bit of brown over the top. It's better. So I think he's coming on, he's all right. Sometimes it helps for me to take a step back and think what's missing. Okay, it's dark there. Right, so we need to get some more of the darker paint. And now I'm literally just looking for dark and light fur and movement on the painting. It's just, that's all. Because we'll want to make sure, as long as you've got the values painted in where they should be, then your picture will make sense. And if they're not painted in where they should be, it won't. So this eye here is a little bit confused because it's too light there. It needs to be darker. and then it needs to be darker above. Okay, I see that now. So it's all about observation, observation, observation. And then that brings that bit down. I'm not even looking at detail here. I'm quite far away from the drawing, from the painting, and just kind of looking at the picture and blocking the darker colours in now, because I feel as though I can do that now because we've got all of the undercolours underneath, and we can go in now with anything that we think is much darker. And it helps to look at the painting on the screen. So I'm looking back and I'm looking at it on the screen, and then I'm looking at the picture and thinking what doesn't make sense, what isn't working. And I definitely think we just need it to be quite a bit darker here. Because that wasn't making much sense to my eyes compared to the picture. So that just brings that round and into the dark there better. And to be honest, I think we just need to make it much, much darker by the edge of the nose at the top. And round here, just very finely. Okay, that's better. And under the bottom needs to be really dark, so under here is not dark enough. So first of all, I'm just going to layer on that darker pinky colour, and we'll dry it. Whoops, nearly lost him. Right, so then we are, that was it, I was going to do the bottom. Not sure it's dry enough yet, hang on. Let's come in with some of that darker brown at the bottom. It's like a darky black brown. Because I can see in the picture that there is that little bit of shadow here. This will help to make him look a bit more 3D as well. I need it to be a bit browner rather than black for here. So it is darker here. I'll just work it out. It's that, yeah, so it's coming around here. Don't worry, I'm not going to leave it like that. It's just me placing the colour and then lifting. Okay, and then because of everything else that I've done, just going to come in the movement of the rest of him. Okay, so that's just creating that little bit of darkness and shadow underneath that was missing there. That's much, much darker. That's fine. So we need to now start thinking more about those darker areas and really making them much darker, because that is what will make your painting come alive. Those much, much darker areas. So just doing the corners of his mouth there. Bless him. He's a cutie pie. And I think we also need dark here. Just keep getting darker and darker until you're happy with the shade that you've got. And keep coming round in the direction of the nose, making sure that you have always got that there. Because eventually that is what will create your dog to look like it makes sense. Some here. Right, so we haven't got the nose quite right there. There we go. It's still pinky there, but we're just pulling it in the corners of the mouth so that it joins the rest of the dog. Let's get some more of that dark brown. Okay. His mouth might need a bit more lining to go all the way round to where it actually does go, and that way he's not looking quite so sad. He looked sad, too sad then to me, my eyes. Right, so now I'm just going back, and again I'm stepping back from the picture. I'm looking what needs changing. Does anything need changing at all? I think the nose might need a bit browning at the front here as it joins the lip, this bit here. There we go, that's better. It is quite a reddy brown, so we just need to make sure that we're getting that in. Now I'm just kind of scribbling it in at the top, which is where the fur will be meeting the nose. Just giving it that little scribble. Okay. And that will then make sense because we'll know that that's fur going into the flesh. Okay. It's definitely coming together now. Just need to get some more of that dark. I don't think that there is enough dark here. A bit more up there as well. So I am now, this is really mostly just finishing touches. And then we'll do the highlights at the end because that really makes a big difference. That needs to be much darker. I can see now that that shadow is quite dark under there. That's better. Don't forget, like when you put the colour down, it will lighten, so don't worry too much. And then come down that way a bit because that's where the nose is coming. That's better. And then now we can start putting some like long strandy bits in, which kind of describe the dog a bit more. And where we can really see the dark, just keep layering until you're happy with how dark it is. It makes it look more realistic anyway. But this is what I like to do. Once I feel like I've got the overall feel of the dog, I just love to play and keep building up the layers until I'm totally happy. And the dark at the back needs to be much darker. That creates a better shadow at the back so that the light of the ears stand out more. Quite happy with that. Again, I'm coming around the nose. I'm not feeling like it's dark enough around there. Needs to be a bit more black around there, I think. I'm just scribbling it in. Going over the black that's already there because that does tend to fade as well. going over where the nose is, and it has little cracks on it. That's fine. And then I want to just go over the edge of the nose at the top. I think it's really important to get that nose right. So just want to go in, because it's the bit that's kind of punching out the picture, isn't it? I still need to go in and do the eyes really, and really get those the same. Really need to go in and just kind of squiggle it in the colour with the point of the brush. Just squiggle it, because that gives the impression of like the fur coming out of the flesh. Okay, and this eye, it's better. Okay. I'm literally just going over now and redoing anything that I think needs redoing. No, that needs to be the darker brown, not that brown. I can see now on the picture that that brown kind of does spread up a bit further that way. So we need to make sure it is doing that as well. Otherwise we'll lose the direction of the face. There we are. See, that's better already. But we need to make sure as well here we've got that red colour, because that was quite obvious, that red colour. So we need to put it there. And the dark now, I'm going to go much darker. It's one brown. Get some black. So again, I'm just mixing between my browns and my blacks that I've had since the beginning. And now I want to come in and kind of darken this side of his face a bit more, because it's a bit too light. And then that will really help to get him standing out. So up around here. Going with the feel of his fur. Make sure you're going in the right direction and really start to darken up that side now. Yeah. It's already helping to give that feel of that shadow there on that side of his face. And a little bit down here too. That's better. Okay, and we need that kind of like a lighter brown colour here. I can see it anyway. Just kind of over there. And it's kind of just coming down here. Can you see it? I think we all see different things. And I love that. I love that we all see different things. I think a little bit of that yellow ochre on top of the brown is really bringing that colour out. You can just keep playing for ages, can't you, and adding colour and taking it. It's more difficult with watercolour to put anything right that you've got wrong, so I would be more careful in that respect, but really just have fun. So I'm going to bring that colour in more into the nose and up here, because that's the lighter area. Excuse me, I'm being a bit croaky. Okay, I'm going to bring that in and round, and it's kind of like a wash really. I'm kind of binding it all together. You definitely need some of that yellow ochre at the top. Oh, what's happened to my voice? Wants me to stop. Well, I'm not ready. Okay, because he's definitely browner at the top there. Sorry, got that yellowy orangey look at the top. Definitely need some more of that here, but it needs to be blended in much more. We're getting there. I'm much happier with how it looks now. Again, I think we need to still make it darker here around his mouth. Still not quite got dark enough, but we are getting there. The thing is, if you're not happy with something, you can always just walk away and come back to it and think, right, what is it that I'm not happy about? What's not working here? For me, it was just a few little things that needed changing. So change them and I feel better. I'm just going to add a few little dots in there of that dark brown just to break it up a bit, make it look a bit more natural. See those little dots, they help to just make it look a little bit natural. Do some on the nose as well. Can you see? Just kind of just dot them about. And that also, because it's a dark brown, it also is a good change in value from the rest of the nose. Put some at the top and we're just dotting it so that it's very loose. Yep, and do the same again, as I say, just dot and squiggle it in. Do the same at the top, just makes it look a bit more real, because then it looks like the light's trickling on him. Just looking to see, there's like a few little dark bits there, and then some light bits, just adding in some detail now into that space. Not too much, it doesn't need too much, but we do want to kind of create that soppy dopey eyed look as best we can. Oh, he's such a sweet dog. Hey, I need to bring some of that pink back in under those eyes. A little bit on the nose. Oh, and a little bit in the mouth. That's still quite pink there, actually. It doesn't need it there. Maybe a bit of that could go in. Now I'm coming in with some grey, just to do the areas on the front there, which are lighter, but they're a bit nondescript in colour. Then that just blends it all together. I think we need some more of this darker coming round. It's not really, that's better. It needs to be a bit more out. And this one needs to be a bit more this way. Again, I'm just looking at the picture and I'm keeping looking at the picture. That's all I'm doing. Trying to get it as much as like the picture as I can. Coming in with that really dark black there because it's there. And then it's also on this side of his face as well. Right. Be sure to get the really dark values in on the fur, because it does really help when you are building up the layers and trying to show where the light and dark is. It's really important that you get the values right. Get those darks in, don't be afraid. It's very dark under here, so I need to make sure I've got that very dark. There we are. I'm trying to show the two direction of the ear, so it's coming this way but then it's folding that way, so I'm trying to get that in as well. And then I also want to kind of make sure this is all joined up now and flowing into each other, so the face doesn't look a bit squinted. Yeah, I think we're there. Right, the eyes. Let's finish off the eyes. I need some more of this yellow ochre. Let's get those eyes standing out, shall we? And we need to come in. There's quite a dark overlay over this one. And this one is kind of coming from that direction. So we can see the eyes starting to come to life a bit now. I tend to always do the final build up of the eyes at the end, because it's what kind of brings it all together. And you don't really know how it's going to look until you've done it. So I do everything else first and then I do the eyes. It's my favourite bit. I love it. Okay, so I think we're there. It's looking pretty much like the photograph. I'm now just checking again for values. Is there anywhere where I have missed some values or got it really wrong? I think I need to come up a bit higher on his head here with the dark. That will make quite a bit of difference. Let's get some more of that. Kind of swoops down that way. It's funny how when you're doing it you start seeing all sorts of different things. I don't want to ruin it, but I also want to I want him to have a good likeness. I think we're there. Sorry, I've gone quiet because I'm just checking the whole photo, and literally my eyes going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth between the photo and him to make sure I'm getting it right. Remember, I don't do these before in front of you. I just do them. So, because I want to be more natural about what I'm doing and you can see what I'm looking for. Don't worry, that will fade again, but I just felt like this needed a bit more emphasis because it's got... Oh, thanks, Lily. She does like to jump on my things. She's probably heard something because that's the window. Had to close the curtains today because the sun was so bright. Wowzers. Okay. So I'm just layering again the fur bit, and there's no harm in keeping going in and layering the fur to make it as real as you can. You need lots of layers. Fur is very layered, so just keep going in until you're happy with lots of different shades and of brown and colours of brown until you think, yeah, I've got it sussed. There. A bit more darker down here. Right, so now I'm just going to dry it and then we're going to come in with highlights. So you can use acrylic paint or gouache paint, but I have got some white jelly roll pens, so I like to use them for just coming in with some little highlights. So his nose, I think, needs a little bit of brightening up just on the top there. So I'm just using it like I would acrylic paint, just to give that little bit of extra oomph. Coming in on the eye to do some of the lines that we can see on the eye. Just have to make sure that the paint's dry, otherwise it won't work very well. You can probably hardly even see on there, but I can see where it needs to be, and it does make a difference. Now this here is the white of the eye. That's better. Needed to have a bit of white in there. Might actually get my acrylic out. Let's have a look. Titanium white. Get a little bit of it out. You just need a little bit on the end of your brush, and you just need to come in with your acrylic paint or your gouache. You can use gouache as well, where you think there is some white, where you need it highlighting. It's not coming up very well on that one. Try again. We just want it on the point, and you just want to be putting it in where it's showing up on your picture. And it just makes their eyes come to life a little bit. There's a bit across there as well. Good. And there is a little bit actually on the nose, so we can come along and put some highlights here. But as I said, just dab in, like just making little marks. Doesn't need to be anything too much. We don't want to ruin it. Just those tiny little marks makes all the difference. And a few down there, I think. Does have like these whisker things going on, but and big eyelashes. Not sure how putting those in is going to make it that much better, but they are there, so let's give that a go. Okay, yeah, this helped a bit. And then need to get it so it's exactly on the point. On this bit. Okay, so we've got some whiskers in there. Well, they're not, they're eyelashes, but they're huge. So I'm going to come in and do the littler eyelashes, which are around here. And so I'm just doing some basically white bits of fur where I think they're needed, because I think he's got some grey hair in there. I've got a feeling he's an older dog. Sort of around here. Oh, it does come to life when you do the eyes. I'm just dabbing on little white marks on the nose. And then I think we'll just call it a day because he's done. Now the next thing to do is to come in and I think use some of that yellow ochre and just sweep that under. That's all it needs, is some of that yellow ochre with quite a bit of water. And we're just going to swish it down. And I quite like the fact that we've used that colour in him as well. It kind of blends the picture together. You probably can hardly even see that. It is just streaks of, can you see? Streaks of yellow ochre. The light's so bright on it, it's difficult to see, isn't it? There we go. That's nice. So that in itself has really started to bring it to life. Oh, whoops, it would have done if I hadn't have done that. Just yellow ochre around there, that's all we want. Actually, some of that in the shadows, that's worked quite well. Let's get a bit more of it. There we go. Because there will be shadows underneath. Use some of the colours that you've used in him, so that's a happy accident. And bring all that down. Perfect. So we'll call him done. That was today's watercolour tutorial. Again, for YouTube, I am doing all dogs at the moment. This is the second one, and there will be a book on how to draw dogs using the grid method, and there'll be a chance then to, once you've learned how to draw him, you can then learn how to paint him by watching this. Or you can use the traceable. If you don't want to learn how to draw, you can use the traceable that I've done. I'll make sure I'll link it. It'll be on my website, and you can have that for free so that you can join in with this. Okay, have a good day everyone, and see you in the next video.